let's have our Senator Steadman, who represents a good part of the district. Senator Aguilar represents the most. And as our speaker mentioned when you weren't in the room, a man more powerful than the Speaker of the House, Senator Steadman.
Well, I'll tell you, I feel bad for Speaker Ferrandino because it's hard being, at the top of the heap, in terms of being the Speaker of the House, and being a lame duck and being term limited. And you can see all that kind of play out this year, and it's kind of interesting. Good morning, everybody. Pat Steadman, Senate District 31. Which is the Capitol Hill portion of House District 2, where I happen to live, so I'm in 2 with you. Great to see you all here. Busy day at the Capitol. As I think you all know, we're going to be doing the memorial for Senator Gordon this morning, and so I actually need to get downstairs and greet some members of the family and make sure everything's ready to go. This is a pretty big deal, just because Ken was so popular, and his service, still relatively recent. And we're really expecting a good crowd and a lot of people that want to be part of remembering him this morning. So we're doing it a little differently than we normally do, and presenting the memorial in the House chambers just so there's room for everybody that we're anticipating is going to be here today. We'll see how that turns out. And I'm ready to go, but I'm nervous and want to make sure the family's all taken care of and settled in, and everything's going to go smoothly. Joint Budget Committee is in full tilt right now. We introduced the long bill 2 weeks from yesterday. That's our deadline for having the budget ready for introduction. We're in our final week of figure setting this week, where we're actually voting still on the line items in the budget. Today we're doing the Department of Personnel and the capital construction budget. Tomorrow we're doing corrections. Thursday we do the governor's office, which actually has a lot of money in there for economic development and information technology. We've got some big decisions we're making this week. Next Tuesday, a week from today, we receive our quarterly revenue estimate, which is where our economists tell us how much tax revenue we should be anticipating that we'll receive. We balance the budget that we write to this March quarterly revenue estimate. It's the best, most recent information we have at the time we're working on the budget. So next week, we step back and see how much we've spent in all of the figure setting work we've done, and if we've overshot the mark in terms of available revenues, we'll have to make some balancing decisions about cutting some things back to live within our means. We must introduce a balanced budget that doesn't overspend the available revenues. So this is really crunch time for the Joint Budget Committee. Not really focused on anything other than the budget at this particular moment. I had a number of bills I was working on earlier this year that I've kind of cleared the deck and got through. Most notably, a little follow-on to the civil unions bill to allow joint income tax filing by couples that are married in other states. That's actually a modernization of our income tax code that's going to work well for future changes that I think are coming. And if you're on my email list, you've probably read a little bit about that in the past couple weeks. If you're not on my email list, you should be, because they're not only informative, they're sometimes entertaining. Who writes for you? I do all that. That's how I spend my weekends. I wished I had a lot.
Pat is keeping the tradition of great emails from Senate District 31 live, and also, you haven't mentioned it, but sponsoring the resolution today, right?
Yeah. I'm the sponsor of the Gordon Memorial. So I do have some more bills that I'm working on that are going to kind of be my second half. For my next trick, here's what we're going to do once the budget's done. Just introduced a bill from the Joint Budget Committee about doing research into the health effects of medical marijuana, using some of the money from the Patient Registry Fund to actually fund medical research to show whether or not it has a benefit for patients with other sorts of conditions that currently aren't approved for medical marijuana. Most notably, or the best example of this, these kids with the severe epilepsy that are using this oil that's been condensed and having a remarkable reduction in the number of epileptic seizures that they experience. That's the kind of medical research we really want to look into. That's one of the big things I'm on. I've got, a tax credit bill. I've got a little election law bill that nobody's seen yet. That's going to be very interesting. It's about to be introduced, and actually, it's my understanding the Secretary of State's office now has a copy. So let's just say we figured out a way to fix many of the problems that were experienced last year when we went through recall elections. And these are some really old statutes and old parts of our Constitution that very rarely have been pressed into service like they were last year. We saw a lot of problems with it. You all know how that turned out. And so we've got a solution to some of those problems. Some of it, we're going to have to amend the Constitution at some point because it's just, the language in there is so outdated for how it describes the recall election in the state constitution written over 80 years ago versus how we conduct elections today. It's really night and day. The two don't sync up at all. But we're going to try and make it work as best we can with a bill that I'm about to introduce, and I suspect you'll be hearing a lot more about that as it gets rolling. But I'll save my thunder for then, and also my voice for this morning. So I'm going to go downstairs, but glad you're all here. If you're going to hang out all day,